I'm joined now by Pierre Martin, a professor of politics at the University of Montreal. He's also a columnist for the largest circulation newspaper in Quebec. A lot of the world thinks of Canada and the U.S. as very, very similar. Can you outline the main differences and how they are likely being addressed by this visit, would you say?
Well, there are quite a bit of differences, but they do have many similarities if you compare them to countries in Asia or Europe. But let's set aside for the moment the most obvious difference is that in Canada there are quite a number of people like me in Quebec who speak French as a first language. So there are two official languages in Canada, and also Canadians in general are closer to European level of government involvement in the society and the economy. So the outlook on government and the economy is different. Which would put Canada slightly on the left of the U.S., although not on all matters and not at all times. And also, the U.S. is a big power. Canada is a smaller world in the world. Finally, one difference that is less obvious at first sight is that actually Canada's population is more urban than the U.S. population. You have a more concentration of population in Canada in the very large cities that are Toronto, Vancouver, Montreal, and a few others, whereas in the U.S. you tend to have more population in smaller urban centers and suburban and in smaller communities.
Pierre, talk to me a little bit about these leaders, too, because I think this is kind of an interesting dimension to all of this. When Barack Obama was elected in the United States, he was a fresh, young face, talking about hope and change. And with Pierre Trudeau, you see another fresh, young face, both of them coming after conservative predecessors. There's Trudeau mania in Canada. Can you talk about the similarities between these two leaders?
Well, first of all, I don't want to emphasize too much the error, but you mentioned Pierre Trudeau. Pierre Trudeau was the father of the current Prime Minister of Canada,
Absolutely.
Justin Trudeau. And in terms of the attraction that Trudeau may have there is a sense of renewal. There is a sense of the image of a leader who comes both with the aura of the past and memories of his father, who was also a quite flamboyant character in many different ways, and comes with also an image that has been well cultivated within the Liberal Party and as a in terms of a political strategy in Canada. It comes with an image of youth, of openness that is in many ways quite a change from the previous leader was conservative and did also project a very conservative and more staid, more austere kind of image.
Well, let's talk a little bit about this election cycle here in the United States, because as Roy Ruttenberg pointed out, there are some people who are Googling to find out what it's like to move to Canada because of the Trump phenomenon. Is Canada prepared for a bunch of refugees?
I think, again, your report made it quite clear that this is a rather marginal phenomenon, that we can't expect necessarily hordes of refugees from the U.S. But I know of at least one case who may not be generalizable of someone who has left the U.S. For political reason to come and live in Quebec. But these are all individual cases that we can't really generalize about, but it does show a general sense of unease in many parts of the American population as to the possibility of a Trump presidency, and that some of those might contemplate to come north to Canada is a testimony of that unease.
Pierre, thanks so much for your time. Certainly appreciate it.